Thank you, Program Director, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Perhaps I'll save you some time and just make it very short and simple. Bantustans never worked for South Africa and its apartheid regime. Bantustans will never work for apartheid Israel. Pre-1652, South Africa was 100% owned by the vast black majority, from its traditional natives, if you call it, or tribes, the San, the Khoi, the Bantu-speaking nations, the Tswanas. It was our land. In 1652, with the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck, started land grabs. And we saw systematic killings of our people from the San and the Khoi. A ship docked in the Western Cape, in the current place called Cape Town, with smallpox, killing 90% of the population of the Khoi and the San. And those that remained fled to the Kalahari Desert. We continued for 350 years of colonialism, seeing the vast majority of black South Africans being killed, being forced off their land, and pushed to homeland reserves. When the Union Government of South Africa was established in 1910, the entire black majority was totally expelled from white South Africa. The notorious Land Act of 1913 ensured that what had been done for 350 years of colonialism was legislated, and blacks were forced to a mere 7% of land in South Africa. With the two Boer republics, Transvaal and the Free State, as well as with the two British colonies, the Cape and Natal, coming together, by 1936, this was consolidated to 13% of the land for black people in homeland reserves, where we formed 90% of the population. We were squeezed to a mere 13%, where a 12% of the population enjoyed 87% of the land. The incoming National Party and the Afrikaner dominance in 1948 saw the establishment of Bantustans, and that ensured that we could be monitored, and we had to have passes to move from a Bantustan into white South Africa as a cheap laborer. And South Africans stood in unity, fighting one of the most brutal regimes we have ever witnessed, the apartheid regime of South Africa. None of us ever imagined that we would realize freedom in our lifetime. But your support in the international solidarity movement, in the non-aligned movement, as well in the frontline states, ensured that we were able to realize this freedom. My grandfather was sentenced to life imprisonment, spent 18 years on Robben Island, then went to Pollsmoor prison and Victor Verster prison, where he was eventually released, spending a total 27 years of imprisonment. Twice in his incarceration, he was offered to be released. Mr. Mandela will release you on one condition, that you go back to your homeland reserve and the Bantustan of former Transkei. He rejected that without hesitation. They came back to him again. We say, Mr. Mandela, will release you on one condition, that you go back to your house in Soweto in a black township that was planned by the apartheid regime on its racial spatial planning. And Madiba said, no, I will not accept to be released in those conditions. And they asked, how can we ensure that we return you to your people? And he said, if I'm to be released, it must be unconditional. I want to be able to walk freely the land of our forefathers, from the north to the south, east to the west. Bantustans never worked for apartheid South Africa. Bantustans will never work for apartheid Israel. I stand here before you today as a free South Africa, enjoying equal rights, justice, and human rights for all on our land, regardless of the color of the pigment of your skin. This is a right that you stood side by side with us and fought for our struggle for liberation, to ensure that we realize a free South Africa. To every South African that is truly rooted to that past, as a descendant of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, and as a South African, I can never look to the Palestinians and say, what we didn't accept, you must accept. Bantustans never worked for apartheid South Africa, and Bantustans will never work for apartheid Israel. I say this because South Africa we have today, we were unable to win in 1994, was only able to dismantle the apartheid legacy legislatively. Today I have been appointed to chair the Portfolio Committee in Parliament of Agriculture, Land Reform, as well as Rural Development. And the land issue is staring us in the face, because a vast majority of South African land still remains in the hands of a few. 25 years later into our democracy, we're still grappling with the apartheid legacy. And therefore, I want to call on to the international community to truly assess what you say and what you mean by a two-state solution. Palestinians are reduced to only 12% of the land of their birthright, land of their forefathers, land that has seen Palestinians thrive for generations. This doesn't impress me at all. Nothing they claim, not their military might, not their newfound allies in the Middle East region, not their newfound hoax of the century deal, not the fact that the landmass of historic Palestine has been disseminated and less than 12% remains in the Palestinian hands. We must not relinquish the right of occupied Palestine. We must not relinquish the right of return to the 6 million refugees living in exile. We must not desist from demanding the release of all political prisoners. We must not desist from claiming a one state for Palestinians, wherein all can live in peace and harmony, wherein all can enjoy equality and full citizenship, where all can enjoy prosperity and democracy. One state, one future. Like apartheid, South Africa is now a forgotten remnant of the past. We must continue to campaign for freedom of all the occupied Palestine. One state, one future. Today, liberated as free as South Africa, I can travel from the north, Limpopo River, and to Cape of Good Hope in the south. From the east, the mouth of the Zambezi River and the Indian Ocean at Port Noloth in the west, where the Orange River pounds into the Atlantic Ocean. Only when we can likewise travel free from the north to east, or from the north to south and east to west in Palestine, we know that we have arrived at a future, and this is the future we can all dream about, and it is a future we can indeed achieve in our lifetime. I thank you.